Hello and welcome to TFT World's last day, final lobby, game number 1. Enjoy.
Oh, Life is Bad was contesting it,
Oh, and he took it.
which is really interesting. And now Title already on the back foot.
Poor guy, but everyone else finds their components, and he's going to have to figure out what his game plan is, picking up, ooh, interesting start here, to just sell this for econ, I suppose.
Wow. Well, you know, Silas is core to his mage-centric strategy, but the Varus is also one of the strongest 3-costs you can get out of a box, particularly because it's both power and econ.
Yeah, and we're going to see where Title takes this one. We just spoke about him and his dominant performance. We saw him yesterday. In the last game of the day, it was a little bit of, I want to say, breathtaking performance, but not in a good way. Like, we were all holding our breath, waiting for what was going to happen, and he did manage to clutch it out and go into these top 8s, but it was close.
You had me in the first half. I thought you were like, wow, you're so impressed by him. I was impressed with him as well, but I think you're
Prior
right.
to that, yes.
Towards the end of yesterday, we saw him play in a position of power. He only needed was to get like a 6th or a 5th place to guarantee it, so he played for not 8th. But he got really close to that 8th. He got 7th place in a 5-way contest for Deja. That almost cost his entire tournament. He has to stay composed because I think that position yesterday almost cost him a spot in the final lobby.
And this is a strength of Rainplosion coming in that we have talked about previously. You will have players who carry on that tilt from previous games. You have players who are able to reset that mental. It's unclear which category Title will fall into.
Something interesting just coming through here. The Mirage, the Namzi, and the Augments. We're getting it all at once. Let's look at the Augments first, because they're on our screen right now. 8 players choosing anything that speaks out to you.
Wow, there's just a lot of strong combinations. You're looking at preparation, cybers, better together. Shunga takes High Tide for that Kaisa. We know he loves Kaisa reroll. We'll see, keep an eye out for that. And then you're looking at some other generic augments, but I have to look at Fritz in the bottom center. He has Shimmer Scale Heart, and he is going to have that ability to get that Shimmer Scale early, and if that item is powerful, that might change the entire complexion of this lobby, and it is going to be Determined Investor, which could be huge implications for the late game. A lot of people want to have those Diamond Hands to survive all that burst.
He's also got an Olaf early, so a couple of directions that he could go from this point. That Olaf going to be stacking up in the early rounds implies to me that he might be going for a loss streak, or at the very least, a convenient way to stack both the item and the unit at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, we just mentioned it, Mirage, with the Duelist is going to be here, and maybe the Mirage Shimmer Scale as an opener, as a mid-game, definitely something that we should be looking for, and players will be looking for sure as well.
Ooh, not quite able to make the win, committed a second item component to it, so Fritz going to have to figure out what his strategy is
Oh
as
my
he finds
goodness.
a Volibear.
So the Volibear does give him a stronger unit to play, but it's also one of these things where all Fritz has to do is unlock that itis somehow. If he somehow spikes it, all of a sudden we're going to 7 Shimmer Scale out of nowhere. It could be a really strong start here for Fritz. So, and that was a really good loss, 98 HP. If he can do that for the rest of the game, he's guaranteed top 2 at worst. So yeah, basically at this point, Fritz is hard chilling.
I want to point out 2 augments here we see on the side. Hwamie going for Knife's Edge, and here we go going for Battle Mage. Not only does that lock them into certain compositions, the Jade, Siphon being one of the primary ones, but in the later stages of the game, when you're trying to eke out that extra 1 position, that's going to limit you severely. You either lose the power of your combat augment, or you lose your positioning advantage.
And we are seeing, here we go, that you just spoke about on the other side of the screen with that Battle Mage already has the Karma too. Is that a direction of Kaisa that we're getting?
It could be Kaisa. However, my prediction at my first reaction would be that Here We Go actually wants to go for Seraphine and Graves compositions. It's been something that he's been anchored by. And Battle Mage is an augment that you could utilize it as well. So I like what Niberia was saying. It could be Jade. I like the suggestion you're talking about with Kaisa. I think the third possibility to consider is also that Seraphine. And I think it's really fun because many people don't consider that as a Seraphine augment, Knife's Edge and Battle Mage, but you can capitalize onto it because you want to keep your units clumped anyways.
Yeah.
He's got a BF sword and a belt. So, just saying, that's the option open right there. As we know, that's all you need.
But notably, he is holding the option
True.
open. He's
Yes.
not slamming the Zeeks. If he had slammed it, I would be saying 100% we're going for the Seraphine Graves, but he is keeping it. He knows he has some time, he has some HP. He can just lay back and see how the game plays out a little bit more.
It might be a reaction to the fact that Hwanmei also has a Zeke slam, so these are kind of dynamics that players are evaluating, and that is good TFT. You're looking at players adapt. They're not just mindlessly committing in a situation where a lot of top players says, you have to commit. These Chinese players are showing us how it's done.
Yeah. A lot of the meta during the TOC, the Chinese regional competition, was defined by early committal. You would see either 2-1 or 3-2 set the full direction for a composition. We would see full rolldowns on 3-2, even from 50 gold to 0.
The downside, by not slamming, look at the match history for Here We Go at the top center. It's a loss, win, loss, no consistency to that streak. The upside, we get a higher pick.
Yeah, and speaking of picks, we are seeing Dongul in the middle right now. He's a little bit sped up, has picked up that metabolic accelerator, and I think this is so interesting going into this one already. He has the metabolic, he's gonna get that extra HP, and we were talking about his playstyle. That works out beautifully, doesn't it?
Exactly. Korean fans are elated to see that Dongul has what should be a reliable top 4 setup, and he even has Lagoon, so he has 2 ways of playing economy, which is to lose streak and wells to rack up those Lagoon rewards. And he has the correct units to play around the Lagoon, right? Sometimes you have Lagoon with like Zeri, Seraphine, and a Malphite one. Like, how does this ever work? He has Kaisa and Zac and a Malphite too. And everything's looking great for Dongul to start things off.
Check out these following rounds because this will decide his economic strategy for the rest of the game. Of course, you want to continue that loss streak into the 5. But we have other players down at the bottom of the board who might contest him, like Tidal and Lifespat.
He held back on his level very specifically here to make sure he is going to be able to get these losses. However, that second at Malphite are looking a little bit strong, so hopefully he can eke this one out. But I think he will be able to do just that with all of these 1-stars. That should be super good for him.
I mean, if he can kill this Nasus, that's really good. Because again, Dongul's at 92. He's been healing 6 HP. He hasn't been losing that many units. Oh, no, the Fury of the Dawn able to give that extra HP. But hey, still a pretty decent fight for Dongul. It was 4v5.
Yeah, 88 HP. Metabolic ticked just as I read the number.
This is 4 loss. Look at Tidal,
Yeah.
who is on 4 loss. That's a 16 HP deficit, which is an entire fight on stage 5 and 6.
Only going to get starker as the game goes on. Tidal going for rich get richer. So this is a very intentional loss streak strategy that will slingshot his economy heavily as we go into stage 3. But like you're saying, Dan, the problem will be maintaining that HP to the point he can do something with this.
That's right, that's right. And his position, Rich Get Richer, with a duplicator on the bench, by the way, tells me that Tidal could either lean into what the Astros are doing. You can see he's frontlining the Lux to lose. Or he could think about Deja. Duelist Mirage is very strong. And even though you're trying to rush through the fight with attack speed, you can use Archangel Staff to also ramp up that AP.
Something is happening though. Dongul meets Tidal, and we already know by their HP that the losses on Tidal side were much more severe. Now Dongul has found a win, has turned that loss streak upside down, and that is going to be a place where you need to do something.
That's really unlike Korean players. You know, Korea was one of the first regions alongside China to show us that they are willing to do anything to maintain that 5 loss. And we have metabolic, so a moment of greed for Dongul cost him upwards to 8 to 10, maybe even like 15 gold by the end of this game.
It's just absolutely disastrous for him. You want to keep that loss streak because now, without a streak coming in here, you're going to be losing in the neighborhood of like 4 or 5 gold.
That's right. That's right. Over 2 rounds, too, for the interest. But his loss is Tidal's gain. And coming into his second championship in a row, Tidal is looking to start things off on the right foot, but needs some good items. If he gets one component, he might be in trouble.
Something that we are seeing on the right side, and you guys are absolutely correct with Tidal and Dongul's perspectives, but I'm seeing something in these units here for Fritz, who has found an Itis on 2-7, and we know what the Shimmer Scale item is. He was on the Shimmer Scale Heart. He has now 5 Shimmer Scale online, and from a good position, he went into a great position.
He did sell his Volibear, so he doesn't have access to that 7 Shimmer we talked about, which gives you 4 total items, which also could give you access to things like Gold Mancer and really powerful stuff. But still, an excellent spot. And the best part about this all is Fritz now can rack up the gold through all the Shimmer Scale, but also not have to roll for a really long time.
And these items don't exactly inspire confidence. You're going to have just mostly defensive, relying on that Giant Slayer on the Ezreal, which means Fritz could continue having this win-loss scenario, but like you said, he doesn't need to be buoyed by win streaks or loss streaks because of the massive amount of economy coming out from Shimmer Scale, which is a good reaction to being in a lobby where you can't secure a constant streak, unlike Xunga.
Yeah, that's right. He does have Giant Slayer Slam, so this heavily indicates that he wants to go for the Itis and Deja. That's two players that I'm looking at right now in the lobby. When Deja is very strong, a lot of people try to contest it. And then on the other side, we see Xunga level to 6. What looks like to be 10 gold of interest on the top right, which means that Xunga is very poor for a player that's had Lagoon since almost the beginning of the game. He's committed to this streak.
Now, final augments coming out, or second augments rather. I'm getting ahead of myself. Too hype. And we're seeing just a silver, so not going to massively impact the tempo of the lobby. And that's good for those loss streakers. They're not going to be rocketed off to the bottom of the leaderboard as fast as they might be otherwise.
Fritz did get Cybernetic Uplink, though. In terms of powerful silvers, that is one of them. Looking at bottom right, here we go, has double Battle Mage, which is a little bit on the more unusual side. Let's hop on board with Rainplosion, who has a pretty generic setup with Better Together and Cyber Implants. This looks like an early setup for Xayah, but we have seen some variations on what this attack damage composition could be. But Rainplosion and I were talking last night, and we have identified that things like Xayah was slightly underplayed relative to its performance. It averaged better than 4.0.
Oh, I actually wouldn't say it was underplayed, at least not by these 8. Maybe in the overall, but in these 8 players that we have here, Xayah is the most played comp with 14 games, even more so than full Dragon Sports.
Oh,
and like you said, she's been performing really, really great. So I think this is a super nice angle that Rain is looking for. Of course, with the Better Together, we're always kind of tempted to go for the Seraphine Graves. But as we saw early on, 2 players had the option for Seeks. 1 player already slammed it. So maybe better to stay away from that one.
Yeah, this fight actually had pretty big implications. Fritz will now get Diamond Hands, can slam it in the middle of the fight if he puts it onto the ice fast enough. Does end up getting it, does end up swinging the fight just enough to go the other direction and deal extra damage. And that Itis surviving means +4 damage onto Rainplosion plus whatever else that could have swung the fight.
Yeah, rough fight there for Rain, but good reaction there from Fritz. This is what's going to decide a lot of the games today. That last second micro is what you're going to be looking for. And we're seeing something you and I talked about earlier on in the week, Dan, that toggle of the Diamond Hands.
That's right. You have to make sure to not autopilot. Wait, speaking of like not autopiloting, what is going on here? Here we go with a 3-3 Soam with Blue Buff and Jewel Gauntlet with Battle Mage. This is actually an incredibly powerful setup.
I'm worried about the positioning in the later stages of the game because boards like Xunga's Kaisa will rip through it.
Yeah, you're saying it. I was staring on the right side of the screen, and we have Hwangmie and Xunga both on 100 HP win streaking. We are in 3-3. That's been a very long time that these players have racked up some econ, and Xunga already here with that Kaisa 2 blue buff Giant Slayer. High Tide, everything's online.
Yeah, it's a strong board. I know that he just lost after I was hyping it up, but he's going up against the 100 streaker who rolled down to preserve his streak and hit Kaisa too just that round before and has that setup. Xunga has been one of the leading players in China trying to push that Kaisa reroll to perfection and one of the scariest players when he's in a win streak position.
Watch the bottom of this lobby as we go into this carousel. You're going to see Tidal down there at just 40 HP. The thing about having players like Hwangmie and Xunga going for these heavy investment early compositions is it puts a ton of pressure on everyone else. Once Tidal goes out or someone else, the tempo of the lobby goes up incredibly quickly and makes it harder to pull off those late game comps.
Yeah, I'm really curious specifically about Tidal's position. He is the person that took Rich Get Richer, and he was on a lose streak. Is he going to roll down at 3-5? If so, how much does he roll? Does he end up hitting things like the Deja? And here we go. We have to find out what he can do with 80 gold.
Gonna roll. That's at least a very good start for now. Picks up a Graves, picks up a Neela. Xiaoyu, Xayah, Zoom, Deja, Siphon. All right, we're finding some dragons. Keep in mind, this is duelist, so a Mirage that we're actually looking for finds the Jax 2 as well. Another Xayah for the pickup, not gonna go with this one. And 20 gold remain.
Pretty decent roll down overall. Now even picked up Shimmer Scale so we can start stacking ahead of the Itis. Honestly, not really that bad of a roll down whatsoever. He still got that Deja was the most important thing. Can slam Giant Slayer as well to stack with that AP, get that multiplicative damage amplification. And Title is actually in a pretty reasonable spot. The only problem is, I talked about how strong Here We Go's board is, and the front lines completely evaporate. Deja almost died to the Tide Blossom. So this is a spot where Title has to, once again, think about if he wants to roll or he's just going to take another loss.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how hard he committed to finding the Deja as well. He was looking at an open Xiao Yu, but never even considered, it seemed, the Suifeng comp.
Actually, Rainplosion ending Juanya's streak here, who is on 68 gold, was on 100 HP with the Knife's Edge, with the Thrill, has this really beautiful comp here set up for now with the Graves already in there and the Zeeks, and Rain just ended that streak.
Yeah, this is really annoying for Hwanmi. It's not devastating. I mean, he's very rich, and he has a Graves already. It looks like he was setting up for Seraphine Graves, like we talked about. And now with this Knife's Edge, let's see what he's going to do at 7 here. He actually leveled just a little bit later off Cadence. This is an unusual play. Most people say, I lost my streak. Why level to 7?
Yeah, and he was going to natural next round, so I guess just looking to preserve HP as much as possible now that he's lost that streak and is running into Xunge.
Yeah, well, it's a free level. I just noticed that he was at 50 gold, so that's the reason why. It's like, well, I'm going to go to 7 anyways, so might as well. But he does lose a little bit of that extra gold. Instead, going to preserve that HP like you mentioned. Xunge, 100 HP to start the game. At the end of stage 3, 2 full stages of streak while collecting those extra Kaisas. Xunge is looking like the front runner right now.
Absolutely, really, really dominant going into this one. But Title has hit that Itis 2, has stabilized, has found the win here on the very last leg. It seems like so far it didn't really come through for him, but maybe this is where you can turn it around. Just looking at the overall HP standings, he is 20 HP away from Fritz. That's already a massive gap for 3-7.
Yep, we also were looking at Life's Bad. Both these players are Deja. Wait a second. We looked away for one round, and all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, Title has it is 2.
Yeah, he did that.
With his duplicator still on the bench.
That's why he won. Just said that.
Well done there from Title.
Sorry.
And now potentially has a Rage Blade on the bench as well for that Deja, so could start coming back into this game. But worth noting, only 18 gold, 31 HP, and Deja is contested.
Yeah, we're seeing it on the right side as the trades come in for all of these players. I'm always also looking for the levels, and something sticks out here. Xunge, who has been win streaking for so long, dominating this lobby on 100 HP, still level 6.
Yeah, has to stay at 6 to maximize the odds for the 2-cost reroll. You're still at 40%. Also, you know, you want to roll for a lot more than just Kaisa. You want to roll for Jax 3, ideally Zac 3. You can see that's collection on his bench. And he's now starting to work onto the diamond hands with the Determined Investor. We'll see if that's enough. Going up against Rainplosion, who has transitioned over to Graves to hold these items. And with Better Together, plus the Cybernetics, if she can get her hands onto a Zeke, she actually can pull off this Seraphine Graves instead. We talked about Xayah as a possibility, but with diamond hands and so many Dejas, it does feel like Xayah is going to have a much harder time. I agree with the choice here from Rainplosion, but will it work out for her?
Final augments coming through to decide the tempo of the game. No, please,
Sorry,
no.
sorry,
Oh,
I have to.
Title would be very upset by that, so it's just going to be gold augments coming out across the board.
Well, Title has Cybernetic Uplink or Heroic Presence. Uplink is probably the thing that he's going to think about and gravitate towards. In fact, most of these players would love something like Uplink. Rainplosion did not get anything such thing. She got Thrill the Hunt. And Hwanmi, who's playing very open, by the way, just took a Portable Forge and found Infinity Force. So he is very open. And his roll down, you can see, picks up a Deja pair. We'll see if he's able to complete that.
Xunge got the nuts roll on those augments. Battle Mage 2 picked up alongside Battle Mage 1 for a Kaisa reroll composition. He had such a perfect augment choice. Now he's rolling.
Yeah, he has to roll slowly but surely. We are seeing it on the right side. Players are out leveling, going to 8. He's still at 6. So far, he's been winning, of course, but at some point, he needs to find those Kaisas, and we know other players are holding them as well. He is so far off that Kaisa 3 for now that it's starting to look a little bit scary for him.
A little bit scary, but the good news is his board is still pretty strong. The second Battle Mage just gives a lot of the base ability power, and Xunge still has a pretty resilient front line. So in his mind, he can't really justify holding on to the streak. Like, if he loses it, he understands why. It's because his board hasn't meaningfully upgraded in a round or two. But that Battle Mage 2 is still a lot of DPS, and Dongul also, by the way, has a late game specialist.
Yeah.
So he's not rolling. He's trying to go for a fast 9. But that kind of strategy is so first or eighth. And there's a lot of power spike. We saw Fritz hitting Deja 2 the round before. Graves 2 for Hwanmi. There's a lot of power. Fritz has 2-star dragons.
And Guardian Spat on top of it, the 6 Guardian Deja. We have seen how dominant this has been. Aurelion Sol as an option in the shop as well, should he decide to pivot out of that Duelist Guardian Deja.
I am a little bit scared for this competition because I think there's already been an Aushin find Shungo now finding that Jax 3 as well. But there's a lot going on and players are just picking up everything left and right.
Position for Kai'Sa does end up being good for Shunga because you're closer to that Deja and be able to take it down, but it's whether or not we can clear this items with Diamond Hands, Mogul's Mail, and a Stone Plate. I just think Fritz's comp is too tanky. There's 6 Guardians. Shunga doesn't even have Jewel Gauntlet to help get that extra burst, and he's still stuck on a Kai'Sa 2, but he has rolled a lot of his gold. He found 6 Kaisas, what looks like to be 6 Zacs and Volibear, so he's close-ish, but he's not quite there, so he's going to trade some of that HP and see how much he can bleed. Speaking of bleeding, look at the bottom of the lobby. Dongul, Tidal, Lifespan, they're all kind of in this danger zone.
Yeah, by the end of stage 4, someone may fall, and Dongul, 19 HP, is at the highest risk. Does have Metabolic Accelerator to potentially keep him in, but an 8-loss streak is hard to recover from, no matter how much gold you have.
Yeah, for sure. But he still has the option to roll for a little bit. He still, like you said, has that metabolic to keep him just a little bit afloat so it will not fall off immediately. And is most likely to still make it to that dragon, which for many players is the turning around point in terms of power spike, in terms of stabilizing. So,
What is going on here? That is an Aushin 2.
And another one in store. Are you kidding me?
Well, sure. If you don't hit Deja, I guess I'll just go Aushin 2.
So I think this one's dragons. I think we can call this comp pretty early. Picking up that Aushin 2, but is going to need a hell of a front line to make it work. Mostly 1-stars for the time being.
It is 4 Guardians, though, and so 4 Guardians does give a lot of artificial AP and Diamond Hands. Don't sleep on that item. It's so good at stalling, especially against things like this Kai'Sa that wants to target it down.
I'm sorry, we're in 4-5. We have an Aushin 2 in play, and we're going to see that power come down on Shunga, who's still on level 6. He's 2 levels below this Aushin, and you can see how much damage that lightning rain just does. Really, really crazy impressive to have that found here. And for Lifespan, this should be good news because this should mean that he can stabilize and come back up. Whereas Dungal, I feel like I jinxed him. 5 HP remain. That's maybe not even going to be enough for the Drake.
He's fast 9 right here at 4-6. He can't take another loss, so he has 60 gold, but we've seen people miss before. He needs to find the 2-star dragons, but things like Itis are contested, so he's going to pivot off, go into Terra. So he has the 4 dragon. Can end up rolling a little bit more.
Oh.
He can't lose a single round. That's what's so difficult about his position. He doesn't want to roll everything because he needs gold for the treasure dragon, but he can't die at the same time.
I mean, if you're going to keep gold
Ace
for
two.
a stage, you might not even reaching. I think this was the absolute correct position to go in, and we're going to see how this one plays out. Dungal will meet with Rainplosion here, and it's all odds on the table. He needs to find the damage to take out this comp she has built. There is Thrill involved, so that Graves on the right side is going to get some extra healing, but maybe, just maybe, that Asol can take him down before he gets there, and it's looking really good. Shyvana is onto him, and Dungal survives, makes it to that dragon with 10 gold.
Yeah, great time to play range. She has not hit. She was clearly waiting for the Zeeks. This is the downside of playing something like that water gun composition. Without that Zeeks Herald, your comp has so little power in the upfront part of the battle. You really want to get that rage play stacking as fast as you can, and Rain didn't have it.
Now, it's just a regular old treasure dragon. No need to freak out just yet, but this will allow multiple players to complete their items on their carries and tanks. And I particularly am going to be looking at Tidal as he tries to fill out that front line, looking a little weak compared to the boards we've seen.
There's 2 players that also caught my eye on top of that, which is we saw Hwanmi play like a 5 Jade, weird variation of that composition that doesn't play Siphon. And then Here We Go, who also has another variation of that Lagoon Mages. He was playing both Sohm and Namzi.
Just a quick note. we found the Kai'Sa 3 for Xunge finally has gone to level 7, and this should be a stabilizing point for him.
It is. However, it's kind of a dynamic where does he want to keep rolling on 7 or just kind of push levels to maybe find other units? He needs to level to 7 for that 4 Dragon Mancer, a huge spike. But the rest of the lobby is so strong. We're talking about Aushin 2. We're talking about Itis and Deja 2 that has Diamond Hands. It's not easy, even though Xunge got a huge amount of power.
Dongul as well at the bottom of the table has those dragons now. Hwamie's board, the weird Jades, as you mentioned, running up against Xunge. Top of the ladder, going against each other, first and second place as Kai'Sa fires away. Xiaoyu finally fully stacked up, but she eats the brunt of a Kai'Sa ultimate and will finally fall.
Yeah, it looks like Hwamie got that successful transition to Siphon. The board that he played to get to that point was the cool part, and now he gets to try to use Jade to coast to a top 4. We'll see if that's enough, as the battles around the conversions are furious. Rainplosion takes another big loss. He got double Zeeks, but there's so much power in things like the Deja boards.
2 HP remain for Dungu, and we thought he was going to be safe with those dragons. Of course, Metabolic brings him back to 4, but that's not going to be enough if he takes another loss here.
And we'll see if Dungu can survive. Rainplosion just got a lot stronger as well, hitting Graves 2 and Zac 2. This Bard, is that better than the Rakan for the extra mana generation as opposed to the Rage Wing? I think so. So all the pieces are in place for Dungu to make that comeback. I like the Soraka a lot just to make sure to recover some HP, but there's still some really strong boards, and most importantly, he has 1 item on this Aurelion Soul.
4 HP around if Dongul can survive, running into the lobby leader in Xunge, who has built up his board over the last few rounds. Terra fires away. Shyvana drops in the middle to flame breath all of the opposition. Aesol uncontested, but now Kai'Sa fires away. Potentially one last ultimate. As Aesol goes wide and falls, Dongul will be the first player out in the final day of the Dragonlance Championship.
And it's just -1 HP. It's so close. If he was able to play just for a little bit longer, who knows? That board is capable of winning out, but Dongul has to settle for 8th place. Rainplosion takes a loss. Here we go, takes an L.
Oh my god.
And we almost all Lives Bad go 8th as well. It's crazy amount of pressure and a race for that top 4.
Yeah, you're saying it. It is a race. Players are really playing high tempo here. We're losing so much HP already. Lifespan now finding that Itis to Hwamie, finding the Siphon to some big upgrades coming in across the board, but will they be enough? We are seeing Rainplosion's board. That was a Graves 2 that we have here together with the Seraphine 2. Items are looking decent. 2 Zeeks are slammed, but can she win against whoever she's going to face?
Running into Hwamie's board with the brand new minted Siphon board. And we see this Graves, only healing coming from Thrill of the Hunt, so watch it as Xiaoyu targets onto the Graves.
Oh no!
One more hit would take him out. He dodges to the side. Soraka saves him, and Graves uncontested. Even a bite won't take him, but Pantheon will. And now Rain, without much damage to her name, will nonetheless find the damage to take down Siphon and survive one more round.
Incredible win there from Rainplosion, able to get Graves into a good matchup, but without Edge of Night, it's always dicey. And as a result, look at it, that win was +2 placements. Life's Bad out in 7th, despite hitting really hard on that Aushin. Here we go out in 6th place, and that's a top 5 for Rainplosion.
There we go, Tidal taking that Shroud. The biggest pickup here, once you get into these 1 versus 1s, you can start predicting your matchups. Game will just tell you at a certain point, and then you can target your opponents and get those extra places.
Tidal also has future sight. He knows who he's facing at all time. And in these top 5, that's going to be a really, really big, important knowledge point for him to use that Zephyr, for him to use that Shroud of Stillness to his advantage, and everyone else should be on the lookout for that one.
Tidal's at 20 HP, so it does feel pretty safe. He doesn't have to level here. I think Tidal will try to save up as much gold as possible, then go to 9 and commit to it. The question will be, how will him or Fritz position for this battle? Is Fritz even aware of it? You can see Tidal's trying not to scout too much. There's a little bit of mind games with Future Sight of showing yourself to your opponent. He does a quick blink scout. Did he get the right Zephyr?
We'll see. A second left to determine it. Oh, goes wide.
Yeah, he does go wide, but as we said, Tidal should survive here. Last second slam of the Shroud of Stillness, and that, of course, completely hits that Deja. If the Zephyr doesn't, then at least we have that one for now. It's on a Leona one. He can reforge it as many times as he likes, as long as he keeps finding units. And you can see these Dejas just racking up here. Shields on both sides of the board, but Fritz just has a few more of those to make sure that his Deja lives longer. Bartold comes in to try and get a little bit of extra damage, but really this battle is a battle of time, and that's going to be won by Fritz. And Title and Rain both find a loss here, as well as Juanmie. All are on single digits.
And the difference between 5th and 3rd is massive. Remember, we're checkmate, so the point threshold is going to be huge. Title, you can just see the difference of quality of units. It's 6 Guardian versus 4 Heroic Presence to deal a little bit of that extra damage. Just not enough. Yes, Title's itemization is pretty good. In fact, many people argue this is BIS for a setup like this. But despite that, it's quality of the rest of the army that gave those 6 Guardian Shields to give him the edge over Fritz.
Title into Rain. The top 4 will be decided by this fight. Future Sight will give the advantage to Title. Misses that Zephyr. Rain, great positioning, but the Deja in a great spot to just wipe through the backline. Graves uncontested. That Siphon, Idis rather, can only last so long. Graves pushes back further. Idis stalling as best he can. Diamond Hands once into the ultimate, looking for the second. Graves fully targeted now by the Deja. Full heal from the thrill of the hunt, and Deja goes down. Title alongside it, and Rain has just secured a 3rd place.
Incredible comeback from Rainplosion. She was cornered to the back of the wall, and from it, able to pull out this miraculous top 3. Most importantly, identifying what's that really critical 8th unit, dodging Zephyrs, putting in Soraka to get herself back in the HP count, and now has earned herself a top 3. This is probably where she drops off. I don't think she can do better than this, but what a game and comeback once more from the Hope of USA.
Absolutely. I mean, you already said it. It has to be just respected, a show of playstyle that she's bringing into this tournament. But I also want to highlight Fritz, who has found that Idis too early on and then completely capitalized onto it, has managed to claw his way into the top 3 here as well. Shungo win streaking from the start. Of course, that's also a valid strat. After bleeding for so long on level 6, I was just, very impressed that he's still here with that HP.
And that's the advantage of starting off with that streak, being able to get it done. We're looking at Fritz also considering a chase of Idis 3. All the Idis players are dead, except for him. Can he find a way to make that happen once more?
We've seen Noel go for it before, and now Rain in the 1 versus 1. You've got to watch for this Graves in the bottom right-hand corner. If he goes down, the fight is over. Graves firing away, trying to chew through the front line, but Idis still alive. Diamond Hands procs once, procs twice, falls, and now Graves firing away through the Braum. Bardolt stalls him, and now Deja uncontested, and nonetheless, the Graves survives, finally goes down, and like you said, Frodan, it looks like a 3rd is the best Rain can hope for.
Yeah, just not able to get through that front line fast enough. Diamond Hands is so problematic for all of those reasons, plus the tankiness of that shield. But now we come into this 1 versus 1. Most important thing to think about is how Shunga's going to utilize Kai'Sa to try to get to the same side as Deja, and whether or not she can utilize things like this Lee Sin kick. Lee Sin kicking Idis could swing this entire matchup, because then Kai'Sa takes a step forward and can be in range of hitting that Deja. So there's going to be a little bit of that mind games. Who's going to get the positioning advantage? Who's going to get the carry onto the right targets?
For now, no one is going to die, though. Both of these players have enough HP. However, Shungo just found a loss in the previous game, so we are looking on whether or not he can take this one around. Look at the Kai'Sa and the Deja respectively doing that damage here. Kai'Sa being completely distracted by the Rakan definitely plays in the favor of Fritz, and she will probably get taken down by that Deja. Shungo finds another loss, and now it's on him to actually do something with the gold he has. He's very far from level 9 still, and is hoping to make it there.
He doesn't have the win condition that really makes this strong, which is having a second damage source that's reliable. Yeah, we have Volibear 3, but Volibear 3 is just not nearly as strong. We don't have Yasuo. Yasuo is usually the big secondary prong attack for this composition, especially if you can get Diamond Hands. On the other side, even if we do get Yasuo, look at what Fritz is going. We have 7 Idases on the bench.
He's chasing for it. He knows he's going to be safe coming out of this round, win or lose. So he's going to chase for that upper end as Xunga fighting for his life here. Volibear firing away in the front line as Kai'Sa remains uncontested. Takes down the Braum. Finally, a good kick from Lee Sin will secure it. And now Deja starting to get threatened. Good kick into the backline once again from Lee Sin. Kai'Sa is under threat. Finally, her front line will fall. 1 versus 2 is not enough for the Kai'Sa, and Xunga down to 4 HP.
Man, Xunga played that fight so well, putting Diamond Hands onto the far right target, getting an opposite side so Kai'Sa is not being targeted. He's trying so many different ways to try to get the edge, but I think that fight went almost as well as it possibly could have. Maybe this Yasuo with the Warmogs can swing things, but otherwise, I'm pretty sure Lidam's going to strike first blood.
And looking here onto this board, we're seeing the final roll down, looking
Idas!
for the Idas 3. Just 1 away. Aushin 2 as a potential, ignores it, rolling past, needs the Idas here. It looks like will not find it, selling out to find the extra little chances there.
I mean, even if he doesn't hit it, he has to think about positioning, because remember, he's rolling so much, but is he going to be on the correct side? Xunga looking, doesn't end up moving it much. Is this going to be the way that determines the fight?
Yeah, we're gonna keep our eyes open for this one. Let's see if the Rakan can take out that Kai'Sa once more, or if she's gonna be on target this time around. The Diamond Hands in her way. Xunga really needs this unit to come through and take down the enemy front line. The Mogul's Mail, the shields come in, and Deja just slices her through. This will not be a win for Xunga. Fritz takes first blood, first win in game 1 of our final day.
Latin America has come to play on Championship Sunday. Fritz from